Hi everyone, this is Lokesh from Soul Freedom Show and Radical Purpose Coaching, and we have a very special guest today, Mark Kane, all the way from the UK. Hey Mark, how are you doing?
Hey, Lokesh. Really good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, I'm really impressed by what you do. You teach some courses on Kundalini and Magic, and you do a lot of stuff. I found you on Udemy, and then I checked out your website and also watched some of your videos. Why don't you give just a little bit of intro about yourself for people who don't know much about you?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, my name's Mark Keane, and I basically had a spiritual awakening in about 2003, so over 20 years ago now. And then that got me really into Kundalini Yoga and Kundalini dance. So in 2005, I went to Australia and learned to dance through the chakras and wake up the Kundalini that way. And then whilst I was training in Australia, there was a Kundalini Yogini out there as well. So I started to carry on with the yoga. And then she told me that, well, there's going to be a training in India with the Kundalini Yoga. So I actually flew from Australia to India in the same year of 2005, trained to be a Kundalini Yoga teacher. And so I've been primarily teaching those ever since when I came back to the UK in 2006. But it's just branched out into so many other things: mysticism, magic, alchemy, shamanism. All of these things are all connected, and I've been weaving them together, teaching them in person and online for 20 years basically. So yeah, it's yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, that's great. So currently you are based in UK. Do you teach online or do you teach like what is your main method of teaching these days?
Yeah, these days it's certainly much more online. I used to teach like everybody else in person. You Kundalini yoga every week, Kundalini dance every week. I used to go out into stone circles and out into the woods, and we dance around the fire and kind of weave together kind of ritual magic and Kundalini dance and this sort of thing. But funny enough, in 2000, well, before 2020, I had my stuff online, but it was just a sideline. But funny enough, in 2020, before the pandemic, I decided to go all out and already was starting to create a course every month. And then when the pandemic hit, I was actually in Panama at a festival called Tribal Gathering, and we all, about 30 of us, took refuge in the jungle, and we were living in a community in the jungles of Panama. And I thought, well, I'm going to stick to what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to keep creating courses every single month from the jungle just with my iPhone. And that's exactly what I did. So I created like 12 courses in 2020 from the jungle, and I just kept going with it. And that became my main income. And so that's still my focus now after all this time. But I still like teaching in person. Like from next week onwards here in the UK, all the festivals are on, all the conscious festivals. So I'll be teaching, constantly throughout the whole summer in person as well. And there's a retreat we got coming in September, so that will be here in the UK in September as well.
Right. And what will be the topic for the retreat?
Well, the retreat is basically something called Kundalini clubbing. That is something that I do in person. For the last 11 years, we've been running, me and my business partner, she's not my partner, Kirsty, something called Kundalini clubbing, which is basically this combination of Kundalini yoga and Kundalini dance, like I've explained. But we start with a cacao ceremony, and, magic comes into it a little bit because I'm opening up the ceremony in that way. And we end up having like a gong bath where we all lie down and feel the vibrations. And then I close down the space again. Oh, and there's also a big kind of conscious dance period as
Yeah.
well, with just barefoot dancing.
Ecstatic, is that ecstatic dance?
Yeah, it's ecstatic dance. I mean, we've been doing, as I say, we've been doing this for a lot longer than that became certainly big in the UK. But it was an evolution. I started something called conscious clubbing in 2010, which funny enough was after the very first conscious clubbing I ever did. I also started my YouTube channel the very next day, so everything's kind of connected.
Oh,
But that kind of evolved into this Kundalini clubbing, and really the last couple of years, we started to expand that out to cover a whole weekend retreat. So rather than just having one evening of about 4 hours, it's now about 4 days, and so we can go a lot deeper, because even though all this, it's fun to do an evening, you can't really go that deep in 4 hours, so that's why we're doing a retreat in this place called Osho Lila. If anybody,
yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah.
yeah, it's the main Osho center here in the UK, although they're trying to kind of evolve beyond Osho now, and they're just going to call it
Yeah.
Lila apparently, but yeah, which means
Yeah.
play, which you probably know.
Yeah. Lila is, of course,
Divine
the
play.
divine play. Yeah. Oh, since you're talking about India, we were chatting earlier. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you learned in India and what was your experience like?
Yeah, well, I mean, India was amazing. I mean, it's unusual with Kundalini Yoga because Yogi Bhajan, who brought Kundalini Yoga to the West, to Canada in 1969, and then into the United States in 1970, and so on. He was a Sikh. He died about 20 years ago. He was still alive actually when I first started practicing. But just before I did the training in India in 2005, he had passed away just a few months before. So he wasn't there teaching it in person, but his energy was still very strong in his house in Anandpur Sahib in the Punjab region, which is about 2 hours north of Amritsar, where the Golden Temple famously is. And yeah, it was a very intensive training. So we were getting up at 4 a.m. We were chanting the Japji. We went all the way through till about 10:30 at night. So it was very, very intensive every single day. And that's how I learned to become a Kundalini yoga teacher. And, it activated a lot of Kundalini. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. Yeah, it was a great group of people. But I would say it was a lot to integrate. So it took quite a long time after that to kind of integrate the experience and certainly get to the point where I am now. It's not like you do the yoga training and then suddenly you're a master. That takes time to embody the Kundalini energy and clear the blocks in the chakras and so on. But
Right.
hopefully I'm getting there now. After 20 years, I hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because Kundalini, although the name I think originated from India, but now it's very popular throughout the world.
Yeah, of
So
course.
when people talk about like Kundalini rising or awakening or any of those words, so what do those words mean to you? As in, like when you say you're awakening or you awaken, like what do those words mean to you?
Yeah, well, the Kundalini energy essentially is the life force, the force of creation. It's connected to the force of procreation, the sexual energy, but it's deeper than that. It's the force of conscious evolution, consciousness moving through the physical experience. So it's kind of like the divine feminine, but I always like to say that it's not the same as feminine, because a lot of people think it's the feminine energy, and that's a bit misleading because you've got the masculine component and the female component, and they weave their way together through the central channel of the Sushumna, right? You've got your Ida, your Pagala, and your Sushumna. So it's an energy that comes through. In some people it happens spontaneously, but for most of us, although we might get a spiritual urge, like to start the process, for most of us, it's a journey of allowing this energy to do its work, which means it's going to bring up a lot of stuff that is held back. So we'll have a lot of blocks in our emotional body, in our physical body, in our mind that'll be holding the energy back. So it's a process of letting go, surrendering, and trusting this energy to just clear through the blocks and essentially raise our frequency and bring us into, I guess, a much higher frequency state, which is more aligned with our true nature, which is the soul. So
Yeah. Did you experience like some people have like visual experiences or some downloads from like angels or guides? Like, what was your experience like when in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was pretty unique. So 2003, I was thinking very intensely about why they built the Great Pyramid of Egypt. I wasn't so concerned about who. I was very concerned about the purpose of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, the oldest pyramid in Giza. And it was that intensity of thought one evening that caused me to have this experience where I suddenly just lay down in bed. I stared at the light for a while. Then I switched off the light. And then I suddenly shot up in the night, in the darkness, and realized that it was all to do with light. And this light flooded through my whole system. And it was like I got a satori, a temporary enlightenment that lasted for 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I was just in bliss. I was shining. I was smiling. I was overwhelmed by the miracle of life. I was so grateful to everyone. And in that time, actually, I got immediately drawn to Kundalini Yoga and immediately drawn to alchemy and immediately drawn to Kabbalah. All of these things I'm still practicing to this day. The very next day, I started that process. And basically, I had this whole download about the Great Pyramid is used to raise the frequency of that land, which is known as Kemet in those days, and balance out Upper and Lower Egypt. So everybody would have felt elevated just by being near, not only just near the pyramid, but anywhere in Egypt. And so basically, they wouldn't have needed to do Kundalini Yoga necessarily because the pyramid was kind of doing it for them.
It was holding the energy in the pyramid. Yeah.
Drawing the energy down from source, from the cosmos, and also drawing up the energy from the earth. This conjunction, which is the same as what I do in my daily practice. It's the combination of the two primary forces. But over and above that, I realized it was like an access point to actually travel, whether that was in the astral body or I tend to think it was actually deeper than that. It was more like a spirit travel to the stars, like to Orion and to Sirius, different star systems. Yeah. So I realized that whole concept of it being a stargate, like in a movie, was actually real. It was actually true. That was actually, and the original story was actually written by an Egyptian, which I didn't know until very recently, and then it was kind of remodeled as a Hollywood movie. So yeah, and in that time, that first week, I got drawn to Kundalini Yoga, and it just completely blew me away. This first class of Kundalini Yoga. I mean, if I thought I was in bliss before, when I did the Kundalini Yoga, it just amplified by about 10 times. So I was feeling so much love. It was overwhelming.
Before you started doing the Kundalini Yoga, how did you come to that point of what you call awakening?
It was completely spontaneous in that way. Like I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't looking for anything spiritual at that time. I was just very, very interested in ancient Egypt.
About you were reading? Were you just reading?
I was reading a lot of books, like intensely reading. Like almost, I was reading about the Ark of the Covenant, about the Holy Grail, about the bloodline of Jesus, about the pyramids, about
emerald tablets and all that.
Well, I don't think I got into that. Now I have, but in those days, it was really more about history and about, wow, there's so much more to history than what we've been told in school. And I was reading Graham Hancock and all of these guys, Lawrence Gardner, who's passed away now. These are incredible alternative historians. And it was just opening my mind because I was like, hold on a minute, nothing is the way that we think it is. We're not we're not on a linear progress from 5,000 years ago to hunter-gatherers to now. Things were more advanced in the past, and we actually went downhill, and now we're having to pick up the pieces again. So it's this kind of this rising and falling of civilizations that seems to happen cyclically that kind of got me into it. So, but it was just completely unexpected. I would say that I had a past life in ancient Egypt, and it was more like past life.
That's what I was going to say, that something to do with past life.
I would say so. I mean, I don't have a clear memory like some people will have very clear memories of
Or it could
past
be through the genetics too. Sometimes it's the genes from your ancestors, because they your ancestors also want to break through to the other side, and maybe you're the messenger, you're the person who's taken on that role to break on through, right? That's how I look at it.
I love it. Yeah, like an intermediary. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because like some people call it like ancestral trauma, like healing the ancestral trauma or generational trauma. Like once we've like gone through or healed that trauma, that's when we start getting these downloads. And that's how I feel about myself too. Is like uh, that the more I heal, the more I understand that what my ancestors were going through, but they could not heal. And as I heal, I get more downloads.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, same thing with Egypt. I wanted to go to Egypt for a long time. In 2022, I saw this guy, Matthias Di Stefano. I don't know if you've heard
Oh, I
about him.
know him. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I
He
went.
he really does remember his past lives. Like he
Oh,
remembers
yeah,
them.
he actually remembers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2021, I think he posted that he's going to do a retreat in 22, and only
Okay.
3,000 people were allowed to get in. Like that. That's a lot of people, but like it filled up.
And only I'd never had that
And
many people go to my retreat.
but yeah, what's funny is I was the last person. There was a one, see, they were filled out, and then I contacted them, and then there's somebody. I was the last person to get
You were
in.
the 3,000th person.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was meant to be, and
Yeah.
it's happened to me a few times. Like I'm the last person to get into
Wow.
these workshops or retreats, and
Interesting.
I'm the opposite of Neo. Neo is an anagram for one, the first one. I'm the
Yeah.
last.
The first
But
one,
it's
the
a
last.
circle, so the last one is also the first one.
Alpha and the Omega. It's all the same. Where it's all one, so it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, going back to Egypt. So yeah, that because now again it's coming up in the news as well. Like they found out
Yeah.
some underground cities or stuff like that under the
Yeah. I
pyramid.
mean, there's always been talk in the ancient teachings about a labyrinth underneath the Giza plateau, and obviously this idea of a hall of records being there, kind of being
Yeah,
connected to the holes of Amenti, where everything is kind of underneath the Sphinx. Like
yeah,
Ed
like the
Casey used to
Akashic
talk
record
about.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, Edgar Casey used to talk about. I think when you go underneath the paw of the Sphinx, you go down to this hall of records, and I follow this astral traveler. What he's called Darius J. Wright. He actually calls himself someone who
oh,
goes
yeah,
out of the body.
right,
Yeah, he says I'm not astral traveling. He says my soul is leaving the body. So he's very very advanced. But he says when he goes down there that it's still active in I guess a hyperdimensional state. Whereas if you go there in the third dimension, you'll say it's kind of empty. But it's
yeah,
interesting that on another dimension, it's still as alive as it ever was. So I think all that's coming out now because I genuinely believe that we are coming out of this Kali Yuga now, or
yeah,
at least an iteration of it, because it's cycles within cycles, and that's why that's coming out right now. And there's something called the telepathy tapes. I don't know if you heard of that, but that's a podcast that's come out recently where these children have apraxia, so they have got very little control of their body and they're non-speaking. And but it turns out when they learn to tap what they're thinking, which takes a lot of practice, they're completely telepathic, which is what we expect to when we come into this new era of the Dwapara Yuga. So I really think that this new age that we're moving into now is going to be so much more elevated than the last one. So right now we're in this crazy time of transition where it seems if you're focusing on the news, you'll probably think things are getting chaotic. But when you focus on the spiritual stuff, like what you're sharing about this stuff coming out from underneath the Giza plateau, I think there's an undercurrent of some really, really positive revelations coming through from the spiritual realm.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. So you mentioned the Kabbalah. So what is the main difference between, from what I understand, there's three or four different philosophies that around the world. Like there's the Vedic, the Indian philosophy, then there's the Christian, so to speak, Christian philosophy, and then there's the alchemy, which is from Egypt, and then there's Kabbalah. But is Kabbalah and alchemy similar, or they're different?
Yeah, they're very similar, I would say. The roots of Kabbalah are with the Judaic tradition, so
Mm.
it's very much held within the esoteric Jewish tradition, and but it's evolved, I would say, through it's certainly since the 1950s as well, to become the cornerstone of the Western magical tradition. So alchemy is something that very much came into Europe, certainly within, in the Middle Ages. That was the real kind of, at the time of the so-called Dark Ages, you had all these alchemists trying to transmute their bodies to get into the illuminated state, which
Is that the Renaissance, or is that a different time?
yeah, I think Renaissance was a time when it actually became quite
More
accepted.
mainstream, right?
I think so. Like, I think basically with these renaissances, you sort of get this flourishing
Oh,
somewhere,
oh, like
where,
people, yeah.
and so suddenly you get this beautiful artwork and beautiful cathedrals, and people really understand the sacred geometry and where to build things on the ley lines, and then something happens where the old paradigm wants to like clamp back
Yeah,
down.
it's like up and down the cycle. It goes down,
Yes,
destroys, and then it builds again.
yes, you do get these periods of time in certain places, not everywhere, but yeah, like certainly I would say probably in Italy during that time, you suddenly see these beautiful,
Yeah,
uh,
like artwork and music.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, so alchemy, I would say, in Kabbalah, in my mind, are very, very, very connected. And but the reason why I think we don't know about them so much is because they've been very guarded, like because of what I'm sharing, that the history of magic and alchemy and mystical practices has not been good, because they've been seen as the dark arts. Witchcraft has seemed to be evil. 400 years of witch trials in Europe, where if you even you know looked at a herbal plant the wrong way, they would like hang you for it or burn you for it at the stake, or
Yeah.
like drown you for it. So like people, I think, even now are very wary, and I'm connected to a lot of the older generation of witches and wizards in this area. There's a lot of them, but they're very secretive. They don't like telling too many people. They don't want to tell their people in work that they're secretly a witch or a wizard. But in their private life, they're really, really, really into it. But even now, it's a little bit taboo. Whereas, of course, the traditions of the East and the yoga, it seems much more open, much more transparent. It actually seems less guarded. So when you look at alchemy and Kabbalah, it can seem a little bit confusing. We've had to work with symbols and hide things essentially in pictures. But the good part about that is that these powerful symbols work in a way that they bypass the conscious mind, right?
Mm.
Because they had to bypass the system, that so they would look at this and just think, oh, that's just nonsense, right? But it actually works on a subconscious and unconscious level, where you actually start to activate this higher functioning within the psyche. So
Yeah.
it's very, very powerful when you stick with it, and when you sort of trust in the process. So yeah, I would say they're very connected, alchemy and Kabbalah.
Yeah. Do you think the crop circles are like similar concept? Because they're also symbols. Some people say they are from the extraterrestrials or aliens. I mean, it doesn't matter for me. I don't think it matters, but it's basically the symbols that are coming back into the planet, right? Like, do you
Yeah,
think that's a symbol for like change of the evolution of the human beings, or is it like, what do you think those
yeah,
crop circles are?
yeah, definitely. I mean, we are in the epicenter of crop circles here in the southwest of
Yeah,
England.
that's the reason I mentioned. Yeah,
For
yeah.
whatever reason, there's they yeah, it happens a lot. in and around, Stonehenge, Avebury, Glastonbury, all of these
Are you
places.
the one doing? Are you the one who's?
Oh, it's not me. Well, I might be doing it in my sleep. Like
Yeah,
who
yeah.
knows?
Your higher self probably is
Who
doing.
knows what we get up to at night? But yeah, for sure. I believe that we're sharing this earth with a lot of different beings that are living in different dimensions of
Yeah.
reality. All of mythology points to that, and all of people's experiences points to that as well. Like I would say that what is now considered to be alien abductions and UFO sightings is just a repeat of before what was people going into fairyland, and people in the past would like go into a fairy mound or a fairy ring, and then
Or
they would
caves. Even they would go
yeah.
into caves too, right? Yeah.
But sometimes they would lose time, so they would go, and if you ate the food, you never eat the food.
Yeah,
You,
yeah. Because it
there would
was
be a time
medicine.
slip.
Food was medicine before, right? It was not like how we eat now. It was more like
Well, no,
medicine.
but I'm talking about if you actually eat from the food in the other world, in the fairy realm, you would
Mm.
actually lose time, and so when you come back, it would be a different time period. So you had people coming back; they were gone for 10 minutes or an hour, and
Oh,
then
so it's
it was a
similar to
hundred
like
years later, and everybody they knew was dead because
so it
it's in a
was similar to how we have the psychedelics is similar to that, but in a different astral plane or in a different plane.
yeah. I mean, it's like I've never heard of anyone taking psychedelics and then losing time like that, but
No,
but
I
yeah,
mean in
it
the sense.
accesses the same realm. I think psychedelics is like probably a watered down version of
Yeah.
actually going to this dimension where you're
Right.
essentially out of time
Yeah, that's
uh,
what I mean. Yeah. Yeah,
so
yeah.
so much that when you come back, you're in a different time. But yeah, so I've forgotten what the question was that you asked me now. But oh yeah, crop circles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I sort of think that there are beings that we're sharing the earth with, and they realize that now is the time of ascension. We're coming out into this Dwapara Yuga, this higher frequency, and the earth is ascending, and we all need to ascend with it. And so they're sort of dropping these bombshells of sacred geometry, which are the more that we witness this sacred geometry is going into the collective unconscious, or you could say becoming the collective conscious, and then it's going to activate our higher mind. So I think that's why that's happening, is because we're ready to receive these higher codes that operate on a higher frequency now. So I less see it as like aliens coming down from another planet, although that can happen. It's more about interdimensional beings that we might already share this planet
Yeah.
with.
And also under the earth, like there's a lot of people now talking about the Agartha and the Shambhala. They are under the.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Agartha, Shambhala, Shangri-La, they're all talking about the concept of the hollow earth, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a physical place. So like
Be
most of the
dimensional,
Tibet,
yeah.
yeah,
Dimension.
it's like hyperdimensional, interdimension. So I think that's also what our traditions point to in the mythology, like the Celtic otherworld of Anun, or the ancient Egyptian world of the Duat. Every culture has this version of another world that is not like this one, where there are other beings. And
Yeah.
we need to stop thinking of that as myth and legend and fantasy, and realize that these are our brothers and sisters as well, kind of thing. Like we're so arrogant that we think we're superior to everything. Like we just discount everything. I mean, as a collective coming out of
Yeah.
this dark time, I'm not talking about you or me and even the people watching this video, I'm sure, but as a collective, we've been quite blind to anything else being sentient except ourselves. So
I
I think
think
that's coming.
religion is probably partly to blame for that, right? Because it's very
Yeah,
human centric. Like most religions are human centric. Like they don't consider plant life, animal life. Like there's so much going on.
yeah. I mean, I don't know so much about other religions, as I know about Christianity, because we're so immersed in it in this country, even though we don't realize it. Still, in this day and age, it affects, I suppose, the way we think and view things. And I was raised as a Catholic as well. I didn't get confirmed as a Catholic because I was already on a spiritual journey at that young age. But
Yeah, yeah.
but I would say that it's a mixed bag. It's kind of like there's a lot of sacred truths in Christianity
Yeah,
that are really profound. And, Jesus said something like, if you've got ears to hear and eyes to see, and that's kind of like a code to say,
the
I am now going to say something really profound, so pay attention. But a lot of it is also I would say, political and to do with controlling the person and keeping you down and making you feel ashamed. And so things are slightly misinterpreted a lot of the time. I mean, how many people know how to read the original Hebrew of the Bible? I mean, there aren't that many people. There are some, but I can't do that. I know
yeah,
some Hebrew because of Kabbalah, but so we don't even know if we're getting the correct versions of these texts a lot of the time, unless you go back and study the ancient Sanskrit, the ancient Hebrew, or whatever. So, what's coming out more and more is that a lot of these texts were changed in I think it was Constantinople. You had thinking of the donation of Constantine and these sort of things. Like a lot of the interesting stuff was taken out. Like in the 5th century, they took out reincarnation out of the Bible, right? So, and that's terrifying, because if you think, and most people still believe that now, don't they? Or the paradigm that we live in.
yeah.
When you die, that's it. There's no afterlife. But in Christianity, they didn't believe that, but they kind of believed that you would go to heaven and that would be it. They didn't believe in this cycle, but actually everything is a cycle. There
The
is no,
bardos, yeah, what they call the
yeah,
Buddhist call bardos, right? The different levels of
the
consciousness.
bardos are some of the levels you go through, yeah, according to the Tibetan tradition, yeah, in the Book of the Dead. But no, the reality is we don't die. We keep coming back. But of course, when they could kind of tell you, when you die, you're either going to go to heaven if you do what we tell you, or you're going to hell if you don't do what we tell you. Well, that's terrifying. You're going to go, oh my God, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. So
Yeah,
it's a control mechanism, and I think
yeah,
we're
fear
still
and
living under the sort of the fear of like really being authentic and really being sovereign and really taking full responsibility for, like, I am awesome, like I'm an immortal soul
I'm a
having
creator. Yeah,
experience,
I'm a
I
creator.
am
I'm not.
powerful, and
Yeah, and
that's the thing. Yeah, go on.
co-creation is what is not taught. Like we are co-create. We are not. So religion and most philosophies say that there's somebody out there who created us, and that's how
Right,
we're just living. But we actually I mean, the way I look at it, we are co-creating God in this moment, because God doesn't have a purpose, from what I know. God's purpose is to live through us, and
right.
we are co-creating with him, her, or it, because it doesn't have a gender.
More than it, yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit rude, but
Yeah, now they have so many like pronouns, but let's not go there, like those whole, he, she, it,
yeah,
they.
it's completely trans. God is completely trans. It's
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But
transcendent of all duality, all polarity. It is the source of everything. So, yeah, I like that perspective. I agree with you. We're all divine sparks, fractals of the one consciousness, and yeah, through us, all God is learning more and more about himself as we grow, as our soul grows, having this human experience. Then it feeds back to the mainframe, back to the database.
yeah, like
That is
if
God.
we make a yeah, if we make a mistake, for example, like we always thinking, if something bad happens to us,
Yeah,
most people would think, why is God letting all these
punishing.
wars and all this?
Yeah.
But
Oh,
the
yeah.
way I
It's
look,
all us. It's all
yeah,
us. It's all, like, yeah. I mean, that's the great secret that I have realized, is that there are no mistakes. So we can't do anything wrong. We can't, like,
yeah,
there's no point where you get judged at the end of this life, and God gets out his little pen and paper and goes, yeah, you got this wrong, you got this right. Like, I think there is a destiny that we are all on. Like, the soul does have a destiny, but we're meant to forget. So it's not meant to be easy. And slowly through life, we follow these breadcrumbs, I call them destiny marking points, where we start to wake up and remember why we chose to come here. And so that eventually, hopefully, we do get more of a sense of that before the end. But either way, when we get to the end, we remember everything and there's no judgment. The reason I can be so confident about this is that I've got really, really into studying people who've had that near-death experience. And so they literally have died. You know, there's no brain activity going on, nothing going on in the body, essentially. Yet they're having this profound experience, which is more real than this one. Everyone that has died and come back, this is the dream. That is the real world, you know. And they say there's so much love that they feel on that side. There's nothing in the human experience that can compare to it. So even though you have a life review and you're going over everything that you've done, you know, there's no judgment. There's only love. So everything is fine. And I think when we get used to that idea that we're not being punished, we can't do anything wrong. And actually, even though things seem bad, like war and pain and suffering, it's all temporary and it's all part of the experience, so that we get a sense of contrast between the spiritual realm, which is perfect, and down here where there is duality and there is pain and there is suffering and there is deception and there is all these illusions. Because then when we go back to the other side where everything's perfect and pristine and this pure unconditional love, we appreciate it even more. We're like, well, thank God that wasn't real. You know.
Yeah, it's like when we're hungry, and then if the more hungry we are, the more tasty the food gets at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love it. That's true. Exactly.
Yeah, or if we are single for a long time, if we get into a relationship, or we have sex.
That's an even better one.
Yeah, like we have sex after a long time. It
long period of abstinence. Yeah.
It's much better than like if you're having sex every day. I mean, it gets boring after a while, right?
Yeah, and it's
a rhetorical question. Like I'm not asking you, but it's just rhetorical question.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the same with food, isn't it? I mean, if you have access to anything all the time,
right.
You take it for granted, you don't appreciate it. So no, I think that's a really good analogy. You know, and that's the thing, when it's only a short experience here. So I think the game of life really, and I do sort of think it is kind of like a game, is to start to appreciate everything already and be grateful for everything already. And the more we can come out of the guilt and the shame and the fear and the anxiety and the sort of the blaming and the victim of like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to the world? Why are they doing that? It's just like, hey, we're all just doing the best that we can do. Let's just live and let live. And I'll do me, you do you. And, you know, that's, I think we'll just start to get on a lot better. The less judgment that we start putting on ourselves and each other, that the more we'll start to bring ourselves back into alignment with the spiritual dimension where there is no judgment. So that's
it's like Beatles song, "Come Together," right? I love that song. Come together right now.
Come together right now. Yeah.
Over me. Is that
I
over
think
me?
so. Over me, yeah.
What does that mean? Over me?
And they went to India, didn't they? They spent some time in India and
John Lennon and all of them.
Yeah. I mean,
Imagine is another one of my favorites by John Lennon. That was an amazing song too.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of think that, you know, they being the system, you know, like might have killed him because he was talking about peace and, you know, they wanted war. I don't know, like felt like.
Same thing with Michael Jackson. I think he also started bringing out all these truths, and I think that's why some people think they got rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, he was becoming more powerful than anyone, you know, like him and Princess Diana. I would say Michael Jackson and Princess Diana, and they were like best friends. Were more powerful. I think Princess Diana was more powerful than the rest of the royal family put together. Michael Jackson was more famous than all of the other pop stars put together. You know, and they were just talking about love, and they were just being good people, and you know, and I think they were very pure at heart and very innocent. And then they're both dead now, you know. Like,
You know, when Michael Jackson came up with that song, they don't really care about us. I
Yeah,
was worried about him. I was like,
yeah.
wow, this guy is really getting onto something. And I was like, oh, he shouldn't have done this. Like,
Well, like Princess Diana said the same thing. She says, she says they see me as a threat, but I'm
right.
not here. I'm not a threat. I'm here to do good. But she didn't live much longer than
Yeah,
after she
yeah,
made
yeah.
that statement.
Right.
So I really don't think it's far. I used to maybe think that these things were far fetched, but now I think it logically. If you sort of put yourself into the mindset of
Yeah, the logical mind.
the
Yeah.
people who want to just like preserve
Control people.
the,
Yeah.
the status quo. I mean, that is the ego. The ego is like, I don't want to change everything. I've got the power. I've got the control. I've got the money. You're a threat to that. I've got to knock you out. It's just like it's a numbers game.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
going to make it look like an accident. And
Yeah.
then maybe even after they've gone, then they go to town, make us some stories about them because they're not there to defend themselves. Who knows?
Yeah, and you never know. Like there's another conspiracy theory which says that people like Michael Jackson, they fake their death because they want to stay away from the public, and then they go to another like underground. They have cities underground, right? Or like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, I follow some conspiracy theories, but like, for example, that flat Earth one is like complete lie, but still, I mean, as in, I don't believe in it, but still, a lot of people got too much. Like you were talking about balance earlier, right? Even if
yeah.
it's a conspiracy theory, we have to make sense of logical thinking, right? Like we have to logically think.
I
Some
think
people
it's
lose
in,
that, like yeah.
it's interesting the thing about the flat Earth. It's very because if you think about it, because I watch a lot of podcasts myself, and people are always referencing the fact that the Earth is round as as the most basic fact that we have. So it's basically, people used to believe that the Earth was flat, but now we know it's round. And it's interesting that it's always given as an example of how stupid we used to be, but now we know better. And the more I hear people saying that, it's almost like reaffirming it, reaffirming it, reaffirming it. And sometimes I sort of go, well, I've never actually seen the Earth from outside of the
Yeah,
Earth.
yeah, exactly. And then they say the
I mean,
NASA.
I feel that it is round. Don't get me wrong, but the more that I hear people saying that, it's like we keep repeating it, we keep repeating it.
Yeah, yeah.
We've seen a photo of it, okay. But do you know what was weird about the first moon landing? Um, there was yeah, the pictures were beamed from Australia. Like they didn't come direct, and they had to like there was a whole film made in Australia about the dish where this tiny little station in Australia had to like beam the pictures back to the Earth. So it's like if you wanted to fake it, I think you really could have done it. So I think what's happening is people just don't trust what they're being told anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
We've been
exactly.
told so many lies, and that's true. Like we know we've been lied to. Religion has been controlling us. I think the science is denying the spiritual dimension. So we can't. They don't believe in anything that's really real. Like they don't believe in life after death. They don't believe in the soul. They don't believe in spirit. Don't believe in the goddess. They don't believe in magic. They don't believe in telepathy. The list goes on and on and on. They just don't believe in anything. So it's like, well, why should we trust them when they're so blind and also so kind of controlling?
Yeah.
But I do believe that there is something about the Earth, like I was saying earlier, like there's more to the Earth than it just being a physical
Yeah, the
planet.
shape, it's not about the shape, it's about the
It's not about
dimension.
the shape; it's about the fact there's more going on with the Earth. And I think even the flat Earthers recognize that there is a toroidal field that comes around the Earth. And I think when you see that picture that they show of the Earth being flat, and
Yeah.
then the world tree, and then the dome around it,
Firmament, they call it the firmament, I think. Yeah.
the firmament, but that is the torus field. And that is essentially when I'm working with Kundalini, I'm working with channeling the energy up and out and
Yeah.
all
Right,
around
right, right. It's
in
in the
both directions. And
it's in
and so
every cell in the universe has that, right? Like the
that
torus.
torus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's right. And also it's like maybe the idea of the Earth being flat isn't in the physical dimension. So it's like the Earth is round, but some people say that there's this plane of reality, like that is the whole of the third dimension, like the whole of physical reality. That third dimension, it's a plane. It's like a
Yeah,
flat
but it depends on which
plane.
dimension you're looking at. I think that's the biggest point. Those flat
Yeah, it's like,
earthers miss is like where you're looking at from. I
where are
mean,
you looking from? It's the
yeah,
perspective. So it's like within the physical to say that the flat Earth is flat. It's ridiculous. But if you go out of the whole
out of yeah, you
construct
go to
of this
another dimension.
reality,
Yeah,
maybe it makes complete sense because there are
yeah, yeah.
different levels of
Yeah, I mean,
reality.
because in this moment, like to me, you look like 2D, right? Like, but you're 2D.
You too.
Yeah, I'm 2D, you're 2D. But if I come and meet you there, then you're 3D. It's the same. It's very simple, right?
Yeah, that's true. I love it. Yeah. We're the flatliners. Yeah,
So I want to talk to you about another thing. The
yeah,
astral projection. There's so many names for it now. Remote
yeah,
viewing, astral projection,
yeah,
lucid dreaming.
yeah,
But basically, my main question is like for example, you mentioned that guy Darius. He talks about it, and
yeah,
there's a remote viewing institute. They come up with these reports about what they saw. But then, how do you? It's like the way I look at it is like almost like when we sleep and we dream at night, right? Like let's say I had a dream at night, and I come to you the next day. I say, okay, I went to another dimension, and then I saw this dream, and then I'm questioning you. You may not know anything about it, like unless we have some kind of a connection, and we say, okay, oh, I was in that dream too. It happens sometimes. And
yeah,
that's how I look at astral projection. Like, for example, somebody says, I went out of my body, my soul went out of my body,
yeah.
and I saw this thing, I met this thing. But then how is that different from a dream? Sounds like a dream.
Yeah, the difference is to do with the quality of your consciousness. So it's basically the same mechanism, but it's different in the degree of how much consciousness you actually transfer into that other reality. So the most basic way is through the lucid dream, where you transfer 10, 15, maybe even up to 25% of your consciousness into this other reality. So it's still going to appear very dreamlike as opposed to this world. You can have kind of hyper real dreams, so they can become quite vivid, but you're not going to mistake it for a different reality. Whereas when you astral travel, you're going, maybe let's say 50% of your consciousness is like traveling into the astral realm that is very closely woven into the fabric of the physical. I mean,
But
you know,
that
they,
dreams can look like that too sometimes, lucid dreaming.
there's a fine line, between a lucid dream and astral traveling, and it's just, I would say,
It's
different
more
in.
with the clarity, maybe it's more clear when we are projecting.
Yeah, well, it's to do with whether you're just kind of dreaming or whether you're actually projecting out your astral
Consciousness.
body. But I
Yeah.
would say, from what I understand, because I've done a lot of lucid dreaming, and um, I've done a lot of astral traveling, and I must admit, I'm not always clear which is which. So it's a fine
Yeah.
line. It's
Because
a,
my like the way I look at it is like if we look at it scientifically, right? Like let's say somebody said, I went to the moon, I did an astral projection, I went to the moon or to Jupiter,
yeah.
whatever. But now, unless another person confirms, like let's say I saw a red building
Oh
on
yeah.
Mars
I see
and
what
I
you're saying.
came back and I'm telling everybody, unless another person or more than one person is telling me the same thing, then I can make shit up, right? I can just make shit up
Yeah.
and yeah.
It needs to be verified. I mean, this is why this research, any research that is done to try and prove the
But then
validity.
otherwise it's just like a dream. If I cannot prove it through another third
You can
party,
though.
yeah.
You can though, because you can have a shared. I mean, you can have a shared dream experience. That's one thing that you can
Yeah,
have a shared
shared dream,
astral.
but then also shared remote viewing as well and shared dream. So that's why
Yeah,
it's in line.
yeah, and that starts to bring more validity to it. But you know, from what this is why I like Darius, because I feel that he's gone 100% out. So I haven't really heard of anyone ever speaking of the level of clarity that he has.
I
And
mean,
so
I'm not talking about clarity, but I'm talking about the verification. How does he verify that it's actually another dimension?
because he can literally go out of body, and he doesn't have to be limited to this realm, right?
But
He's
that's
gone to,
what we do in dreams as well, right? We
yeah,
do.
but he can literally go around the physical world
Mm.
and
Or
and
like real
tell you
movie,
what
like
you're
if
doing. He will say, last night you were, you were wearing this, you were doing that. He
oh,
he he can literally do that. He can literally like prove
oh,
time.
okay.
Yeah. So that's because he's. I mean, I still have only got his word for it, but I believe him because he's got that level of proof that he can see what's happening on the physical dimension. Although maybe he's not in the physical dimension, but he's able to view it. Let's say that's why I start to sort of trust when he's talking about all these different other
So is
realities.
it
Maybe
similar
he's
to,
right about that as well. But it's
is
just a
it,
feeling I have. But the
yeah,
only way to really know is to do it yourself. Like there's
yeah,
no
yeah,
other.
exactly, yeah. And
Yeah,
like,
you have to do it yourself.
yeah, like in that book, autobiography of a yogi, he talks about
Yeah,
the teleportation, like, like you can be in two places at the same time.
by location.
Yeah, by location. Yeah. So it could be sounds like something similar to that, like what this guy Darius or other people who are doing. It's like they can literally divide up their consciousness, like their body is here, but their half of their consciousness goes to another place. So sounds similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, for him, he talks about like he's 100% out. So it's like I guess I don't really understand how he's basically he feels that he's leaving the body essentially for dead. But what
I mean, he
that
cannot
sounds.
be 100% out because the body is still here, and the body can only be alive if there's
You
some
would think
conscious.
you would think that would be very dangerous the way he describes it. Yeah, it's true.
Because body
Uh,
cannot be alive unless there's it could
it
be
must be
like, even if it's
something must be
1%.
keeping the body running. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something
Even
must
if
be
it's
happening.
1%, yeah.
But that's the way he talks about it. I mean, my experience of astral traveling is, yeah, that it's yeah,
What is your experience? What
it's still a work in progress. Like I haven't got to that point. And as I say, we don't always remember. This is the thing. The one thing is going out of body. The other thing is remembering that we've done it.
Yeah, but then
The
again, it's
other,
the same like a dream. Then it's just like a dream then.
yeah. But I think this is why we just have to get better at becoming more and more
Yeah,
conscious.
more lucid. Yeah. I think
And
astral
and the more,
projection is, yeah, next level of the lucid dreaming is
yeah,
astral.
and getting used to bringing that information back. It's a
Yeah, I
trick.
mean, the more lucid we become, the more we'll bring back, right?
The
Because
more
that's,
we, yeah, the more awareness we put to it, the more likely that we'll be able to bring that awareness back. So yeah, it's a work in progress. I mean, like I said, I've had hundreds or thousands of these experiences, but I still feel like like when I hear about him, I'm like, okay, there's another level, like but I openly share where I'm at. I don't try and make myself to be a master. It's like I'm still a work in progress, But I think I think there's more to this than what maybe people realize. Like it's not just fun. I think it's our birthright. Like we are multidimensional. We are not limited just to this physical body. We're not even just limited to this physical plane. And for me, I think that's very interesting. And like I said before, I believe in the past that our ancestors, certainly the shamans, right, the shamans, the wizards, the witches, the yogis, they were working with these other beings, and they were getting information from these beings, and there was a communication. There was maybe even a relationship, like a reciprocity, that we were sharing this earth. And then somehow, I think the stories seem to point to the fact that these links got severed a lot of the time between these other worlds and these other beings and us, and left to our own devices, we've been very dangerous and we've been very destructive. So I don't know how that's affected them. I would be interested to find out whether they're
yeah.
sort
I think Carlos Castaneda really talked about it in his books, like how the ancient shamans, they could bilocate, they could access different dimensions. I don't know if you've read Carlos Castaneda's work, but he talks about
of,
that.
Yeah, not in great detail. I have looked at it, and
But
I,
he
I
was,
used to do the magical passes
yeah,
that he the
yeah,
the
but I think he was
creating
also,
portals and stuff.
yeah, but he was also talking about the plant medicine peyote. I think
Oh
they
yeah,
used to do it through peyote, and
yeah,
now,
I've done that.
yeah, and now there's ayahuasca. I mean, there's
Yeah,
so
I've done that. I've done that one too. That's a powerful one. I've never had any luck with peyote. Ayahuasca is is interesting. I think as a potent plant
yeah,
medicine. It's certainly one that's very popular. I mean, I did that in Panama. Funny enough, in 2020, Peruvian shaman, and it was very remarkable that one time. Like
yeah.
I've
For
done it.
me too. Yeah, I did it once too, but I'm never gonna do it again. It was kind of brutal. It's
It's very brutal. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, it's not like something you would do for like fun. It's
I
very
prefer DMT.
difficult.
I did the 5-MeO DMT once,
Yeah,
and
I've
that
done
I
that as well.
prefer
Yeah,
that one because that one is shorter. It's like it's not
so
so.
short.
Yeah, yeah,
That really messed me up. That messed me up even more. Yeah, no, I think these things are. I mean, I think there was a very long heritage of us using these plant medicines, but I think we need to realize that ultimately we are the medicine. Like the Kundalini, when it
yeah.
gets activated,
Medicine is just showing us what's
the way,
possible, but then we come back and we do it ourselves.
yeah, it shows us what's possible, but it's only a poor reflection. It's a little bit like technology. It's like, like
Like we're talking now, like it's
we're
possible.
talking now, and it's like
Yeah.
it's good, but it's not perfect. But if we learned to like remote view perfectly, it
Or
would be like I
telepathically
was
talk to
there.
each other. Yeah, exactly.
So our technology is only replicating what we are innately capable of, but and it's just that it takes a lot of work to
Yeah,
develop it. But then it takes a lot of work to build a computer. I couldn't build this flipping computer.
yeah,
So
exactly.
actually, it's just that we take it for granted because we can just it's very cost effective. We can buy an iPhone or in a computer,
Yeah, yeah,
and it makes us lazy in a way because it's like, why should I learn to remote view or be clairvoyant or be bilocate astral travel? Because I can just talk to you through Zoom. But
yeah,
actually, that's technology, the same as plant medicine. It's just showing you this is what you're capable of. This is everything is essentially outside of
like,
ourselves. Is
yeah.
is
Just
also
reflecting back.
inside.
Yeah,
It's a mirror. Everything is mirroring back to us. So actually,
yeah,
it's it's actually more direct if we could learn just to become clairvoyant, just to become
yeah.
telepathic. Like in the telepathy tapes, these children have blown my mind because they're connecting to each other.
Mm.
I don't know where. Like they said it's on the hill. Let's say it's the astral, but they're going out onto the hill. They're communicating with each other. They're learning languages. Some of them are teaching. Like it's like they're going to school. I've actually just released a video on YouTube today, actually about Hogwarts is real because it's kind of like they're literally going to this other dimensional place and learning other languages that they haven't even learned
Ah, it sounds
here
similar
on
to.
Earth.
Have you heard of Carolyn Corey? She's also teaching this stuff through. She has a school called Superhuman in
Yeah.
US. Like the blindfold, they have like kids who put the blindfold and they can read stuff and
Oh yeah, that's a very similar. Yeah, the mindfold. Yeah, I've got one of those. Yeah, they're amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I have heard of her, but yeah, that's why. Yeah, I've come across that work, but I haven't looked
Yeah,
into
there's
it.
a lot of people now. Like telepathy is, I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think in a few years, maybe 5 years, telepathy is going to be very common because we won't need phones anymore
We
because
won't.
yeah, the phones are just like it's showing us what's possible, right? Like you
I
were saying earlier, we go through these cycles. So we went through the cycle of when we had all these superpowers and now we going
Yeah,
down. This is we are not evolved. I mean, we have devolved right from that space,
yeah.
and now it's time to go back up again. And the technology is just showing us what's possible.
Yeah, I certainly hope that's true. My sense is that because a lot of people are talking about like a split in the timeline.
Yeah, right, right.
So what I sort of see as well is this sense of like you and I, people watching this video, people in the collective spiritual communities, like w- that's the path that we're on. That's the trajectory we're on. We're going to become fully telepathic. We're excited about
Yeah,
it. We're embracing it. We're going to put the time into it, and
yeah,
it's going to become strong. Like the more that you see someone else doing it, the easier it becomes, because it breaks the limited belief of like it's not possible,
Yeah.
or is it really? Well, could I really do that? But when you start seeing it with the telepathy tapes, like, oh my, if this is real, like it just makes it more likely that you can
Yeah.
do it.
More possible. Yeah. It's
But
the
they, but even now, like
more believable.
you get people who are like, I still don't believe it. It's there. It's fabricated. I don't even want to listen to it. So those people might go down the transhuman route. They might
Yeah.
get shit.
I
You
mean,
know, they might start merging with their technology and plugging into AI and making AI their god. And it's like, and there might be two types of humans. There'll be the spiritual adepts that are reclaiming our sovereignty, and then there'll be like the transhumans. I don't know. Like, I hope, you know, I hope we don't go down that darker path, because, but that seems to be the one that most people are aware of right now, is like AI and virtual reality, augmented reality, you know, all of that stuff. So I don't know what you
yeah,
think
I
about
mean, yeah, what I feel is, yeah, I also used to believe in that theory about the splitting of Earth, like the Dolores Cannon talked about it.
that.
But,
Right, right.
now what I believe is that what they call the hundredth monkey effect,
I know
like
about
if,
that.
yeah, if like, let's say 51% of, or even less than that, let's say 20% of the people
Yeah,
like you and
yes,
me,
yeah.
we start using our superhuman powers, then the other people either energetically, they don't even have to see us because we are the same species. That's
We
what
are
the
one.
100th monkey effect they had experiments on. And like those monkeys were not even close to the other monkeys who were doing whatever they were
They were on
doing.
different islands. They were literally on different islands from each
Yeah,
other.
exactly. So I feel that's what's going to happen is like let's say we reach 20% or even 10%, let's say. So the other people are going to start energetically start feeling it. And I already feel it, that energetic connect. Like when I walk outside, I can almost feel that, how connected we are, like it. And it has only happened in the last like 1 or 2 years for me, that I can literally feel, like what other people are feeling, or I just look at them and I can,
Yeah,
energetically feel if they're sad or if they're, whatever. Empathy, they call it empathy, but it's more than empathy. I think it's more about
yeah,
embodying our, not just emotions and thoughts, but it's beyond that, our soul, our essence, right?
yeah, yeah. We're all one at the same at the end of the day, aren't we? It's yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, you reminded me of the work of Rupert Sheldrake. He's an English professor here who, you know, does studies when you look at someone from behind, then they turn around. Like, everyone seems to feel that
Yeah,
in
yeah,
their head,
yeah,
but
yeah,
there can't
exactly.
be any logical. There shouldn't be any logical reason in the old paradigm why people should be aware of that, but they are. Like, if I was to look at someone out the window now, like, they always look back, and I'm like, well,
Yeah, it happened to me. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
It
it's
happens
like
all the
I
time,
look at
every
my
day. Like, every day, I'm like, I think sometimes it's like, maybe if you've got quite an intense stare, like, it's not like you're wanting to attract that person, but it's just like you kind of, you know, you have to like dial back your consciousness or
yeah,
something.
he,
Uh,
Bashar, I'm sure you've heard of Bashar. What he
oh, he's
calls,
amazing.
tell him,
He's
yeah,
the best channeler, in my opinion, in the world. Like, you know,
yeah,
if he can be a good channeler, but he just makes the most sense. Yeah.
yeah. So he uses this word. He made up this word. I think he calls it telepathy. So he
Oh,
combined
yeah, yeah.
combine telepathy and empathy, and he called it
Empathy.
telepathy.
Got
So
it.
what he says is that it's not that we can read other people's minds, it's that we can transfer our feelings and thoughts onto other people. And some people call it thought transference as well, but it's not like we are reading people's minds, we are reading the energy. But while we are reading it, we are also sending it that energy. So that
Yeah.
means it's like chicken and egg, like it's like both are happening at the same time. We're sending and receiving at the same time. So it's not that we are reading other people's minds, we are
Yeah.
sending it and then
That's
they reflect it back.
yeah. So I think the idea of, let's say, telepathy, as I understand it, and how I used to understand it, because I actually studied with Richard Wiseman, who's a parapsychologist. We did studies on telepathy in the early 90s. And the idea is like, yeah, you're sort of sending someone this, they're called the Zener cards, like a cross, and then you think of a cross, and then they're picking up that message like it's a phone. But what I've learned now, from certainly from the telepathy tapes of the last few months, but more than that, from all the people that have an NDE, near-death experience, and come back, they all say the primary form of communication is telepathy. But telepathy is just the word that we have for it. It's like what you say, communication on the spiritual dimension is instantaneous. Like you think
there's no time and space. Yeah, there's no time.
Yeah, there's no time and space. So it's just, you think of, the moment you think of something, you're there.
Non-local, yeah. I think Deepak Chopra calls it non-local reality. Yeah, non-local.
It's a good way. So that's primary. So that's our birthright. That's the truth. And actually, language and even speaking verbally is actually a bit of a distraction, because you don't even have to think.
Yeah, because we are putting the filters on. Language is putting the filters on, right?
Yeah, and as soon as you speak words and use language, like, you can be misinterpreted. You can
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the worst form. The worst form of communication is language.
It's awful. It's like it's not the worst, but it's really bad. Like, the more, it's. Do you know about the Tower of Babel story in the Bible, where the people were trying to build a tower to God, and they now they placed that at the ziggurat of Ur in Babylon, which is Iraq, and that's where they say it was. But they were saying that God got angry because we were trying to keep this.
Trying to reach heaven or something like that.
Yeah, so he smashed it down to the ground, and then
basically they were getting arrogant and thinking.
That's how the story goes. But then the interesting part of the story, apart from that being let's say an intermediary between the worlds, is that after that point, all the people started speaking different languages, and they could no longer understand.
There was no common ground. There was no common ground.
Well, so they couldn't communicate, so they couldn't build the tower again, because you can't
can't agree. There's no agreement. Yeah.
And so I thought, and that resonates with me on some level. It's like, yeah, language really gets in the way of us realizing that we're
especially because we have so many. If we had one language in the world, that would be a little bit better. But now we have 100 languages.
I think that's what the British tried to do. But anyway.
Yeah, they went too far. You guys.
I'm not sure if that's the answer. But yeah, I know what you mean. There is some virtue in everyone understanding each other, everyone being able to communicate with each other. But I think telepathy, it'll become second nature. Yeah, I really think. I mean, honestly, I can't believe the telepathy tapes. I mean, it's so reassuring that these children are 100% telepathic. Like, it's not like 70%, 80%. I mean, some of them, it's just 100% all the time.
Yeah, even there's this guru in India. His name is Sadhguru. Probably.
He's famous.
Yeah, he also in his. I went to his ashram a couple of months back, and he also has these school for kids. Is called I forget what its name. Gurukul. Yeah, Gurukul means a school for kids. So they also have these experiments about the psychic abilities and stuff, blindfolding and kids reading and stuff. So it was there in the Vedic Indian culture before, but he's trying to bring back. I mean, I'm sure other people too, but he's one of the people who's trying to bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm really grateful to India, because India, I mean, despite the fact that the British were there for a while, and I'm sure tried to press upon their own culture, India is so strong as a memory of the ancient world, and how rich humanity used to be. And it's because the science of yoga, Kundalini, the chakras, the Vedas, all of this stuff is so profound. And it's like I said before, it's a global wisdom. We've all had our versions of the ancient wisdom and the capabilities that we've had, but it's been kind of lost, a lot of it, forgotten, muddled, basically empire, let's call it,
which has been happening for a long time, and long
long
Yeah,
before Britain was even created.
yeah,
Like
yeah, I was going to say we cannot blame Britain or
no,
any.
no, no, no. It's just it's like a recent example. It's just that Britain was such a it went it was the first global, let's say, empire.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, well, in this iteration of
yeah, in this version in the last 500 years or whatever.
yeah. But they've just basically, I mean, the Romans were a good example.
Yeah,
2,000 years ago, they came to Britain, and they any of the druids that knew anything, they killed them. That would have really hurt the ancient wisdom of this particular land, or Europe in general. So it's just that I like calling it empire, as in a generic term, like
yeah, like a
wisdom
kingdom kind of.
wisdom keepers, medicine men and women, witches, wizards, whatever shamans, shamanesses, priests, priestesses. They were all killed, like all silenced, like so. So it's remarkable that India is just one of these places, like for whatever reason, I don't know how it was achieved. I know
Yeah, I mean,
has become impervious to that being eradicated. Like it's so strong almost in the land.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's
Even
just you can't really eradicate it.
yeah, yeah, they actually promote it. Like, I mean, the Dalai Lama is a good example of that, right? Like when he didn't have any place to go, India is the one country that said, okay, you're welcome here because they want to promote that culture of spiritual living. It's not because physical and spiritual are not even different, right? We should be
Oh, they're
spiritual
not.
all the time. It's not that we have to meditate and then go to work. But I mean, that's how I look at life now. In the last,
Yeah,
at
yeah,
least, at least in the last 2 3 years, there's no difference. Like everything is spiritual.
yeah. Absolutely. Life is the real meditation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So to wrap it up, one last
Yeah,
question I want to ask you is like about magic because there's two kinds of magic. Is like one with a C and one with a CK or one with a K. Like CK and K is the same thing. But
correct.
I mean, magic is obviously with a C is just theatrical drama stuff, like what we see in movies. But
Yeah.
now with the magic and alchemy, I guess there's similar concepts. But how would you like if somebody didn't know what alchemy is it or what magic is or any of the things we have talked about, what do you think it is and what is a very simple way for people to understand it, like, or like one small step people can take to kind of go to that level of being superhuman, what I call superhuman.
Yeah, well, I mean, I created this online course called How to Be Your Own Wizard or Witch, and in that course, I break it down into three areas. One of which is this idea of shamanism, like we've talked about. We are multidimensional. We can train ourselves to become aware of these other worlds, and go into those other worlds, and then bring back some knowledge or wisdom, some capability. The second one is really magic with a CK, which is to do with our ability to influence the world around us, to sort of manifest things in the world so that we can start to be a vibrational match to, the life that we want to live and the world that we want to live in. So that's a big part of it. Like the law of attraction is also is famous for being a part of that. And alchemy is really the highest, what I call that high magic, which is the highest form of Western mystery tradition, which is the same as enlightenment. Basically, alchemy is the Western equivalent of
Yeah.
what Kundalini Yoga is in the East. So I've studied both, so that I can sort of really understand. Like basically, I studied Kundalini Yoga so that I could really embody alchemy, because alchemy is quite mysterious. But when you work with the activation of the Kundalini, with the breath and the mantras and the bandhas and all of this, and then you look at the alchemy, it's like so powerful. So
Yeah.
alchemy is essentially, got 7 operations of alchemy, and they are a vibrational match to the chakra system, and it's a process of refinement from the calcination, all the way up to the coagulation. These are the operations of alchemy, and it's once you've achieved that, you've achieved what's known as the Magnus Opum, which is the great work, which is we've illuminated the soul in human body. So it's exactly the same as the experience of enlightenment in the East. So that's the easiest way to explain it. Is alchemy is the Western equivalent of essentially the pathway to enlightenment. So yeah, that's my main focus. But
Magic,
they're
is
all
it?
woven.
So magic and alchemy are almost similar, two different things.
Well, yeah, that's to say, magic is, I would say, like you've got low magic and high magic. Low magic is about manifestation, right? I'm wanting to attract a partner. I want to attract more money. I want to, this sort of thing, or I want my business to grow. So it's kind of like quite
Yeah, or want to
worldly.
be more confident person or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just about realizing that everything is connected. What is outside of me is a reflection of what's inside of me. And so, like, if everybody has good intentions, magic can be used very, very positively. But of course, if you have bad intentions, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
So
Whereas
you mean to
alchemy,
say alchemy is more on the positive, higher side?
it's the highest form of magic, right? Because
Okay.
it's to do with the spiritual refinement, the
Right.
path of illumination. So it's becoming enlightened. So yeah, and when you get to that point, all your magic with a CK is going to be positive, because you won't be a vibrational match to doing any lower
Right.
forms of manipulation or anything like that. So, but there's everything that we do comes back to us. Everything's reciprocal. So
Yeah.
the pathway is always going to be towards the light and becoming more refined. Otherwise, it's going to come back to us anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Great. Thank you, Mark, so much. I learned a lot, and I hope all our viewers, and hopefully you will also share this video with your audience as
yeah,
well.
absolutely.
And then hopefully people learned something new. And why don't you share about your website and what kind of courses you offer?
Yeah, so my website is sleepingserpent.com, which is basically like the Kundalini when it's coiled 3.5 times around the spine. So sleepingserpent.com. You can get to all my courses from there, which are on Thinkific. The direct link is sleepingserpent.thinkific.com, but you can actually get to it straight from the main website. And yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
And Udemy as well, right? You have
Yeah, but I got all my courses on Udemy as well. Yeah, it's just that I'm putting more focus into my own website now. That's where
Oh
I'm
yeah,
taking.
because they take some share, Udemy takes some percentage out of the profit, right?
Yeah, they're taking a lot more than they used to. So I'm putting a lot more focus into my own website and building up that business more and more. And we'll
Okay.
see what happens with Udemy. I mean, but right now, as it stands, yeah, like mostly everything is on
And
Udemy as well.
when is your retreat? What is the date for your retreats coming up?
4th of September, Oshalila here in Dorset. It'll be, yeah, like a long weekend.
Mm.
And if you go onto Osho Leela's website, you'll be able to find the Kundalini clubbing retreat. Or you can always email me at mark@sleepingserpents.com as well. Any
Okay,
questions?
great. Thank you, Mark, so much. It was
Lokesh?
great talking to you. And yeah, my name is Lokesh. Again, my website is radicalpurposecoaching.com. I'm a life purpose coach, and I also do these podcasts. And I'm also about to launch some online courses as well, similar to yours. I'm working on those. So hopefully, we can collaborate more in the future, Mark. And
Yeah, forward to that.
yeah, yeah. Thank you again, and you have a beautiful day. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Namaste. Bye bye.
All right, namaste.